This week on Life Dries Success, we're going to dive into it with an entrepreneur that has done just about everything. Coming up next. All right, Jeffrey, let's kick this off. But in most interviews, I would say I start at the beginning. But one thing that I found fascinating about your history is that while you definitely wanted to be an entrepreneur from the get-go, as I started looking at your story, you studied politics.
Yeah, I studied politics. Yeah, I did politics. I did campaigns. Most people don't know that I was very involved in politics. In fact, ran for lieutenant governor of the state of South Dakota when I was a junior in high school.
That's crazy.
So that's how far back. But it went back to when I was 10 years old. I was in a mall somewhere when I was in Georgia, and they had this funny straw hats, and somebody had one of those hats, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And so that's how I said, how do I get one of those hats? And they said, pass out these brochures, and it was for some congressman. And so that kind of got it started. And from there, I got really involved in politics. I love debate. I love open, communications, conversations, things like that. So, I'm a very transparent person. So totally. And of course, and now I know the president really well because, I was a judge on Celebrity Apprentice for 3 years.
Right.
And of course, we became friends. Now, let's be clear, he's kind of crazy. But quite frankly, aren't we all?
We all are insane. The saying is, if he would just get off of Twitter, it'd probably be a great president.
Get his thumbs off of Twitter. I wish he just. One thing I said to him, and I've said to this before, we've had conversations. Just act more presidential. So that I don't have to
just act more presidential.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to explain it to my wife. I just don't want to have to do that. And that's those kind of things. But
all right.
By the way, I want to say something. In my book, The Hero Factor, which is out right now, I actually said having him as a president is a good thing. Now I know some people out there are going to get mad at me, and it's okay. You can do that because you should pick. But here's what it is: it makes you pick a side.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's very important right now because. He for so long we have been kind of this let it go, we can't control that, and he's just ticked people off one way or the other.
Yeah.
Okay, it's forcing people to pick sides, and I just think that's absolutely wonderful that you got to pick a side. You're deciding where you stand, and you might not have been as vocal or as forceful about it before, and now with him as president, you have to be. And I think that's absolutely a wonderful kind of thing to see happen in this world. It should have happened without having that occur.
Right.
And I really truly don't. And this is all stuff aside. Never thought he'd be president. I don't think he thought he would.
He
be
didn't
president.
think so. Yep.
Exactly. We all believe that. And but the apathy, okay, the indifference. That's what you get. So don't do that again.
So I'm glad you went there. So it's an interesting topic. What I love what you just said, and I think that's absolutely the truth is that it's making people pick a side. On the other side, what is almost sad about it, and eventually it's going to right itself. But in any other election, your neighbor has a sign for the Democrat, you put up one for the Republican, election's over, your grandma dies, neighbor brings over pasta and says, I'm sorry your grandma died. In this world that we live in now, it's so polarized. It's black or white. If you voted for Trump, you're the devil to someone else. And if you didn't vote for Trump, you're devil to the other side. So eventually that's got to neutralize, right?
Well, those people die off. Eventually, that's kind of cleansing the gene pool all the way around. But we've been living with this intolerance of politics for a while, and it started with the Rush Limbaughs of the world, and these talk show hosts. And I think, quite frankly, most people are now tuning it out. Most people, I think, are turning off what is traditional TV. That. Look what you're doing. Look what we're doing at C-Suite TV as well. No one rushes home to watch a primetime show anymore.
They don't need to.
Belief, they don't need to. And my belief is we're tuning out that stuff, and it will have less of an influence in the next generation. Yeah. It's just going to take us a while. But let's keep in mind, that's only a couple elections away. So in the meantime, the country's not going to fall apart. We're not going to go down the shithole. Okay. It won't be as good as we'd like. It could be, it's not utopia, but hey, as long as no one dies, okay. We should be a happy thing. And by the way, I talk about this, the hero factor, about picking a side. You have to do that in your business. And I use that as an example of picking a side, making a choice, because until you do that, you're not going to be one of those great businesses. You'll be a good business, but picking sides are real important.
Do you think because you're picking sides and because of obviously sensitivities, is it silencing too many people because you're afraid of speaking your opinion if you're down the middle, or even if you're on one side, that if you're not an aggressive human being, even in leadership, that maybe you're going to silence yourself to not engage?
That just tells me you're milquetoast and I wouldn't want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
It means you're just going to make a crappy product too.
That's true.
Because you're not going to stand up and say, hey, that's a bad product that's going through the line. We should take that out. When you allow the indifference and you allow the intolerance and don't confront those things, that's when you start to have bad things. And I think we've been doing that for far too long. And we've been like, oh, let's try to be a little too politically correct. Let's try to be a little too soft. Let's try not to talk about the elephants in the room when we all see the elephant wearing a pink tutu walking right through, and we're trying not to make eye contact with the problem that's in the room. And I think the real great businesses, and this is what someone wrote about the book, they said the hero factor, that factor inside of a business, running hero cultures in a business, takes over where good to great leaves off. Because you have a choice in the spectrum. In fact, you can go to the hero factor book.com and you can get a free assessment of where your own business might line up in terms of what I call hero values and operational excellence. And you have a good co right smack in the middle, and then you have this hero company way up here. It's great operational excellence. We find that hero companies actually perform better than every other company in their industry. They make more money, they gross more money, they have happier employees, they have happier, more engaged customers, and they have vendors who want to do business with them. To me, that sounds like a great prescription. Then you in the lower right hand corner, you've got these do-gooders, high values, high hero values, really want to do the right things, take care of their community, do the things that they should be able to do, but yet they don't make any money. Well, that doesn't help. That's not going to help you. And then you got wannabes. Wannabes never, can't wait to work out of a wet paper sack. They just always want to have great values, and they always want to be operational excellence, but they don't pick a side. And then you have these assets way down in the bottom corner and then have no values and no operational excellence. And then in the upper left-hand corner, you have great operational excellence, but little value. So you've got companies like, Walmart and GE, great companies. Let's be clear. But they whitewash their hero factor with the fact that they give money, and that's not the real thing. So what I tell people to do is really focus on picking a side. Decide what kind of business you want. I don't care what it is. If you want to be a do-gooder and go hug trees and do all the right things, but you don't make any money from it, just understand you're going to starve. It's not going to be a good business. But and same thing with operational excellence. But don't couch it with the fact that you say that you're a green company when you're really not.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I was talking to someone yesterday. I'm in a Vistage group, and the discussion went towards some airline crash in Minnesota, and when they're listening back to the black box, the pilot's coming in, the co-pilot knew they were coming in too sharp, and not to the end does a co-pilot say, hey, maybe we should lay up, crash, everybody on the plane dies. But that's what happens in bad cultures. No one speaks up, no one takes a side, and then the bad product gets delivered.
Exactly. Or the bad relationship occurs, or the abuse occurs, or you would just go all the way through. Or the lawsuit happens. I've been in, look, I bought and sold over 250 businesses in my career, over 25 billion in transactions. I've been at Fortune 100 companies. I can remember we were suing a customer, and a customer was suing us. And I'm looking at it, and it was over a patent infringement. And there was a question about whether or not it was, but in the end, this was a client that was going to give us hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business. And I turned to the attorneys in the meeting and I said, why are we doing all this? Why are we taking deposition? Has anyone picked up the phone and called the executives over there? And everybody looked around and said, no. I said, this is ridiculous. So I walked upstairs to my CEO and I said, I was chief marketing officer at the time. I said, look, I know the CEO really well. I used to do consulting work with him. You mind if I call and see if I can get us out of this, negotiate a settlement real quick? One quick quick phone call off the record. And can we do that? Do you mind if I do it? And then he called the chief legal officer. She walked in. We talked about it. I called. 5 minutes later, we'd settled the case.
That's great.
And I said, look, what's it going to take to get out of this? He said, $10 million. I said, we'll do that. How about we just credit you your bills that you owe us? And we'll do it that way. We'll transfer just like if you and I owed each other money. Right. I did some brochure printing for you and you did some design work for me. Hey, let's just swap the invoices.
Swap it.
And that's what we did. And everybody was happy. And we started paying them a license fee and we were done. What a great thing. But it takes that, pick a side. It takes that. We've got to be transparent. We've got to be, we have to be very inclusive in the way in which we think. And so I even talk about that in the book, about the key for we have to be very diverse. So we have to be sitting there thinking, I don't know all I'm supposed to know. I'm not aware of all the things that I'm aware of. And how do I start to get that? So to do that, you have to be more inclusive. You have to look for things. And so there's a big part of what business needs to be doing now is doing that.
Well, a few things that are interesting about the scenario that you just spoke about. One, you picked a side. You said your headline. Two, you showed the long division. What was the map to get to that answer? So now you're creating clarity of what you were trying to accomplish, and then you went and did it. And it seems like in business, there's too much passive behavior, and that limits the ability to say let's just close this. Let's pick up the phone and have a conversation.
Yeah, well, my life's too short. Maybe I'm getting older in the life, but I've always kind of been this way where I just don't get it. I used to sit in meetings when I was at Eastman Kodak, chief marketing officer, and I'd be sitting in meetings. I'm telling you, I'd be going like, oh man, this is really screwed up. What's going on here? And I thought, well, somebody should fix that. And I'd be thinking, somebody should really fix that. And then I started thinking, well, that's me. I'm an officer in this company. I have responsibility. I'm one of 5 key officers in this company. That's my responsibility. Okay. It's up to me. And, you don't go look for permission. You don't go look for, excuses. You just go get it done. And we need more of that. I call them clock changers. When I was at Kodak, when I first got there, one of the things I decided to do was change the clocks in the rooms, because I wanted to see what people do when they walk in. And you kind of test the mettle of my team. And there it was off. They'd walk in, they'd look at the clock, look at their watch, look at the clock, look at their watch, say the clock's wrong. And pretty soon someone's saying, yeah, the clock's off in another building, clock's off over here. And then they started forming like little committees and said, we should go get this fixed. Somebody should do something about it. And this went on, quite frankly, for weeks. And then finally I got so ticked off about it, after about 2 or 3 weeks, I finally said, why doesn't someone just do something? And a woman got up and she walked over, she pulled her chair over underneath the clock. She hiked her dress up, she stood on the chair, and she changed the clock. I immediately named her my chief of staff.
That's awesome.
Okay. She's running $1 billion company today. But that's what we're looking for in business today, is we're looking for clock changers. I'm looking for people. That's why I'm so impressed. Like, I'd be on High Point University, and I'm walking with the president of High Point University. This guy's doing a phenomenal job. Nido Cobain, been a friend of mine for decades, entrepreneur, speaker. And then he decided to go and become the chairman, president of a university. And he's taken this university from this to way up here, just off the charts. And yet, when I'm walking through the campus, you know what he's doing? Picking up paper. Picking up paper. I mean, he's dressed. He's immaculate, by the way. Here I'm in jeans and a jacket. He's immaculate. He looks like he stepped out of a GQ catalog, right? But here he is, stooping over as we're walking, picking up paper. There he is, seeing some students, parents, and saying, do you need help? Can I give you directions? That's what you want to see. That's hero culture, man. That's what that's about.
You know what I love about that? Call it one of my culture tests, and I do it sporadically, similar to your clock thing, or similar to the story you just said. I will leave a piece of crumbled up paper on the floor in the conference room. Just watch how many people walk right past it without picking it up. Because at the end of the day, I got to make sure in our culture that I got people that are willing to pick up that piece of paper, because that's going to be reflective on the client too. So we're looking for the exact same things. But I feel like in business, the gap between good and great is not far. It's almost internal motivation of, do you want to do it, right?
Yeah. Well, and the gap between great and being hero culture isn't very far either.
Yeah.
It's all about values. It's values. and what are the values that you have. And so, our Hero Club got started when a guy named Rob Ryan sold his company for $20.4 billion. And when he sold his company, he set aside a percentage of his company for the employees. He didn't have to, but that's what he decided to do. Because heroes take care of the community, take care of the people, take care of their customers, and take care of their vendors. They're about, taking care of that big community. Some might call it the tribe, know. And here he set aside, he and his wife was Chief Legal Officer Terry, set aside a percentage of the company, making the single largest number of millionaires ever created in one day. It's never been surpassed up until in fact, that number hadn't been surpassed until 2016 when Microsoft bought LinkedIn. And, then he went out and he said, geez, all these employees would come up to him and say, Mr. Ryan, you don't know me, but I'm a janitor and I can send my kids to college. You're my hero. Or my wife's got cancer and I can pay for the operation. You're my hero. Yeah. And so he said, Jeff, I never felt like a hero. But I knew how to run a business. I knew how to do this. I knew how to teach others. So he started teaching people. That's what it became. And so he had 20, 30 people until he found what we were doing. And he said, Jeff, well, you got this thing called the C-Suite Network with hundreds of thousands of people. He says, can you scale this thing? And so he basically said, here it is. And so now we're at 400x growth and, 40 different communities that are now that are building these hero groups. And so our Hero Club is growing. And it's all about values. And so one of the things that we changed after we took it over from Rob was that we added a pledge that says you just can't be an asshole. And that's basically what the pledge is. It says you can do the right things. And we don't prescribe that you got to give 10% of your company to employees or this or that or that. Right. It's about an attitude. And I think that's really cool. LeVar Burton is the one that gave me that quote about don't be an asshole. He and Mark, what's Mark's last name? Mark Wolf. Mark was a former producer in LA, and LeVar were speaking somewhere. We were both speaking at some big YPO thing internationally, and I had met LeVar. Of course, LeVar is founder of Reading Rainbow, and of course the actor. But we hit it. The three of us hit it off. We were backstage in the green room. We hit it off. It was like one of those kind of bro fest and bromances. And so it was immediate, especially for LeVar and I especially. And I did something I rarely do. He said, would you come watch me speak? Because typically I won't go out in the audience and watch the speaker speak.
Sure.
But that time I did. And I said, you know what? I'm in the Hall of Fame speaking. I do 160 keynotes a year. Last thing I want to really do is watch you speak. But you asked me, you seem like a cool guy. I'm going to go do it. And I did. And his first slide was, we don't work with assholes. That was his first slide. And I thought that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I wonder how PBS censored that one.
Yeah, it probably wasn't going to make PBS. It won't be. It won't be on the sign up and subscribe on on this PBS station. It will not be there.
So okay,
by the way, it ought to be. We ought to have more.
It ought to be. It's transparency.
There's nothing wrong with the fine arts and the lower arts. There's nothing wrong with either one of those.
Our core values at our company, and it's on our conference room window. It's culture of respect first, but the second one is give a shit, and it says shit on our conference room windows, and we're proud of that. So
good for you.
We're good with the little things. So okay, go back. So you get out of college now. This hero factor mindset. Do you have it at that point in your life, or did life experiences have to happen did something have to happen to you personally to make you want to have that effect?
My intensity for the hero factor has grown. I've always had it. And I see businesses who have it. I think 90% of the businesses in this world have it today. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to be stupid.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
There are a few of those. Okay. And by and large, I think most people do. But because of complacency, because of cash, because of this, or because, and I say because of cash, because sometimes there's a pile of cash. And if you just cut these corners, you can take it. If you just, even though you don't like the guy, but he's giving you cash, do you want to do business with him? And it takes people with a strong back. It takes people with a strong sense of values and knowing who they are to say, no, I'm not working with you because I don't like you. Or you treat your employees bad, or you're not a good steward of the environment, or whatever it might be. And I personally have always had a good sense of who I am and what I want to be.
Yeah.
Not knowing always where that was going to go, but certainly of the level I was. When I started out in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, well, I was doing business there and thinking I was hot stuff until I figured out, ooh, I can do this in Iowa, you know, and then the intensity grew bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, the same thing happens with your hero factor. You have it, you're good, and you get better as you go, just like being a great athlete, right? You're a good athlete, then you become a better athlete, and you become a superstar, and then a mega star, and then so forth and so on. If you follow that path, and if you work at it to get there, you'll get there. But it doesn't just come. It doesn't just come. I think we all start with it. We all want that. I think every business starts off to be pure and good and the best. And then it's about, how you progress it.
So I had a book come out this year, last month, and the theme of it, especially for me personally, was that everybody that finds success seems to have some sort of trouble or some rough moment in their life that they eventually look back at it as fuel. That right. In the time, whether it's getting bullied or being overweight, things that I had to battle with, in the time it sucked, but then eventually it turns into such fuel that motivates me to do exactly what your book is doing now. Is there a moment in your life that you look back on and still motivates you to drive success, that pushes you 1 inch further?
Every day. Yeah. Every day. Except I tend to forget about most of them because to me, that's like, okay, I did that, done that. Don't do that again. That hurt. It's like touching a hot stove. So I don't dwell on that too much personally. A lot of people will say, Jeff, what's the worst mistake you ever made? And I say, I don't know. I haven't made it yet. Meaning I've made a bunch of them and they were really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I invested in a pheasant farm, once and the profits flew away,
That's good.
It was bad. I tried to corner the market on pheasants and realized there wasn't one. Okay. So I can tell you all kinds of bad experiences like that, but I can laugh. But back then I will tell you, oh my God, I had to go to a bank, get $5,000. Like today, big deal. But back then it was huge and I had to get a loan for it and it was bad. And I was devastated, but, but move on.
Yeah.
And the same thing with success. People say, what's your best success? I don't know. I haven't done it yet. Although my best success are really valued in my own personal belief, my family and things like that. But from a business perspective, I've been a billion. I used to run a budget of 17 billion. Thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of employees. Well, actually, over 100,000 employees. And but okay, now I'm cleaning the toilet. That's what we do around here. You got to do what you got to do.
Is the game different for you today in that financially you've found wealth, that now it's not necessarily about money, it's about victory or giving back? Has what winning is defined for you changed?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it does. Well, especially if you get more comfortable with it. But let's be clear. Money's how we keep score.
Yeah, of course.
That's how we keep score.
Sure.
So when I look at my conditions of satisfaction, they're really around three things. One, building wealth. Okay, because I'm not where I want to be yet, and I've got grandkids coming. I got nephews and nieces, and I want them to have a better life than what I had.
Right.
Because I grew up very poor. Very, very, those things still affect me, because I still drive a 2002 pickup truck that I put a new engine in, did that, just because I don't believe in buying a new one yet,
Right.
And so things like that, so conditions of satisfaction really to me are about building wealth. The second is about, learning new things. I am really into learning new things, whether it's online sales funnels or different methods to be able to do different things that an old dog like me gets to learn. And I consider myself a millennial in a baby boomer body, and then the third piece of it has got to be fun, because if it's not fun, what the hell? I just don't want to work with people who are just, again, getting back, we're assholes. I don't want to do that anymore. Now, do I have to work with some of those people sometimes? Yes, of course you have to. Okay, because you need the cash, or you need to do this thing, or it's a way to get to where you want. So you put up with some of that stuff, but the key is to try to keep your conditions of satisfaction intact as much as possible.
So everybody deep down, in my opinion, is still that little kid that started somewhere. That even the assholes still are. There's a 3-year-old trapped in them.
Yep.
Does great culture, in your opinion, when you've had to work with assholes, does that great culture not protect from an asshole, but maybe cut a little bit off the top and humanize the asshole?
Well, the cool thing about culture is if we were together in this company and like Liz is sitting here and Lindsay's over here and we're all, if you add them all together, that's the culture of the company, right? So, we like you are Kodak, I am Kodak, she's Kodak, he's Kodak. Together, that's what it is.
Right.
So it's collectively. Now, so if your culture is good, great, or a hero, well then, yeah, it does help you in those stages. If it's a poor culture, an asset culture, those people thrive, right? So it's really about the values and the vision that company has and how they live out those values every single day that separates that. That's the true sense of it. And what a company has to do, I mean, some of the biggest things companies have to think about, CEOs have to think about, it's always about vision and talent. Two biggest things. And that you always have to be focused on. And what you have to do is really make sure that you're weeding out the lowest common denominators.
Yeah, I think that's the critical thing is really taking a scorecard on what is your bottom 20%.
Yeah, and continue to find it, and by the way, I don't care how good your group is, you always have that.
You always have it.
You always have that. It's just a different intensity level. So, when you're, just you might get rid of the worst ones, but then you find out there's another level of worst. So you just have to constantly be churning with that and understand it's there. And, some people think in your operation think it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. Oh my gosh, the way they talk to us, the way this person, oh, it's not the end of the world. It's irritating. Right. But if you put some operating procedures in, like we're not going to triangulate, like, you and I, Nick, we don't talk about Liz when she's not there.
Yeah.
You just have certain rules that you put in place, but it's not about putting the rules in. If people don't drink the Kool-Aid, it won't make a difference.
Won't matter. Yeah. Hidden in your subhead, so how great leaders transform organizations and create winning cultures. What I was attracted to is leaders transform organizations, and I think about our own culture. We had a moment last year. We were going through some turnover. And our leadership meeting were revolving around 3 human beings in our organization, not necessarily bad people outside work, just very cancerous within the organization, that new folks would come in, that latch to them, they would talk shit. It was causing culture issues. And I finally had enough of it. And it's up to me as CEO to make this decision. And it couldn't be done by a group of leaders to come to this. I said, all right, we're done. What we're going to do is we're going to walk in the room. I grabbed our head of people and culture. We walked into an office. We talked with all 3 of them. And I said, you have 2 routes. You either resign or you stop your shit and you get on the bus. Either way is good. We'll shake hands. You'll move on. I'll cheerlead you for the rest of your career. It just might not be the right fit. So we did that. And one after another, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all 3 resign. They're out. The clouds part. The sun comes out. And our culture instantly turned over. But I think that key thing that you're saying there, leaders transform organizations, and you can't wait for that. You can't wait for culture to transform your organization.
Right. Well, culture takes a long time. It takes generations. And so you can change the mood, okay, which really helps, because I've said mood will kill culture every day. Just like, culture kills strategy.
Right.
But mood can kill that. So you have to have good mood, and usually you have those cancerous people inside your company are causing a bad mood, which is not letting the culture breathe. And what happens when you do that, Alma, without question, I'll guarantee you someone said, well, we should have done that a year ago, or
no one regrets it.
Yeah, no one regrets it. Everybody knows no one regrets it. But the leaders got to take the responsibility for it, because the people won't. And then here's why: they're worried for permission. They don't know they have authority. They don't know if someone's got their back. And in bigger groups like that, we all have those self-doubts, and those self-doubts aren't caused by the company. They're caused by here, and they're caused by your own personal stuff when you were a little kid. Being bullied or being picked on or the mean girls or whatever. I mean, that stuff's still real. And I don't care. And by the way, I don't care how big you are. I'm a big guy. I don't care how powerful you are. It's always there. And
it's your internal culture, right? That's your culture.
Yeah. It's those I call them stories. It's those little stories that go in your head. I just stopped listening to them a long time ago. And every once in a while they'll pop up. Hey, let me tell you a story. No, go away. I don't want to hear that story.
Yeah, go away.
And that happens. That happens all the time. It happens with the greatest people. I mean, think about some of these athletes who blow it at the buzzer, blow it at here. They blow it here. They miss this. They do that. They're doing the relays and they hit the hurdle and don't hit over the hurdle. How many times have they practiced that? It's mental. It's just little things. So you're not going to clear it. You're not going to clear it. You're not going to quit it. Bam. That's what happens, right?
Tiger Woods.
Oh, but wow, what a story. What a story. Whether you like him or not, about that kind of thing. But don't forget, his audience isn't the most politically correct audience.
They scream when you hit the golf ball.
Yeah.
So for you at this point in life, and I want to conclude with this question. You've accomplished so much. Your resume is full. Internally, obviously, you're still driven to do some things from a wealth standpoint. But what equals happiness for you?
Well, it gets back to those. It gets back to those conditions of satisfaction. But with what we're doing right now with the Hero Club, I'm really, really. It's time for this country and business to get back to doing what it does well. The free enterprise system in this country is the biggest thing we've got going for us. And yet we've run away from it. We've tried to litigate it. We've tried to restrict it. We've tried to, put regulations on it across the board. And most people, don't violate those things. Most people do the right thing. So let's start honoring the cultures of the great businesses that do it and let them start to lead and watch everybody else fall in line very quickly. And because the more that we start picking sides like that, the less likely we're going to need those other things, and the more likely someone will pick up the phone and say, stop doing that. Or that's a bad example, and we're not allowing that anymore. And that's what we have to get back to. And so I'm really excited. That's what I'm really excited about, what we're building and how we're doing it. And it's certainly resonating because we have all these new members that are joining us, and then all the things that we're doing inside of our C-suite with the TV, the C-suite radio, with our podcast, C-suite book club. All these things are coming together, and it's just fun. I'm having a blast. I mean, I go to bed every night hoping I'll hurry up and sleep so I can get up the next day and get going. That's what I'm doing every day.
Holy shit. If people could just listen to what you just said once and just find one moment in every day where you say, I'm really excited about X, then they're going to find happiness. It's like we're conditioned to be negative humans and dread work or dread what we're doing. But man, listen to what you just said. If you could say once, right?
Yeah, I don't want, even I will tell you that I say this every once in a while. I'll say, I'd do this for free if I could, but I don't have to. So
you don't have to.
I don't have to. And my wife says that to me a lot. She goes, a lot of times she goes, you just do it for free, wouldn't you? I said, yeah, I would. I'd enjoy it. And I don't care what it is. I mean, I like doing everything. If it's cleaning the toilet, okay, great. I'll do that. Mop. And we were planning a conference coming up here, and we were actually talking about, we're renting out an old refurbished church. And someone said they did a tour in there and the bathrooms are dirty, and they were complaining about it's dirty, it's smelly. I said, well, let's just get them up. Well, they'll do that for us. I go, well, what if they don't? Well, then let's go get them up. We'll clean it. Just do it. Let's because we want to put on an experience. So whatever it takes to put the experience on, let's don't worry about what they live up to or won't live up to. Let's worry about what we're going to get done and how we want it to be. And if we focus on that, we won't be discouraged by somebody who didn't clean a toilet. We'll clean it. Okay, fine, no problem.
And if for some reason the toilet doesn't get clean, you just put up a sign up and said, God had to pee too.
No, yeah, well, that's Jesus, it has to pee. Jesus, we should make a button. Jesus has to pee. That's going to get a letter. That's going to get a letter.
That's going to get a letter.
That's going to get a letter.
Jeffrey, I appreciate your story. I feel like we could talk for hours about this. Thanks for sharing it. I look forward to seeing how the book does and look forward to seeing where our relationship goes.
Thank you.
Take care.